can we just put it like in the middle or something?
אנחנו יכולים להעביר את זה בינינו. ורגע, אנחנו צריכים את המחשב שלי בצד בשביל לעשות את זה. אנחנו צריכים את זה.
Go ahead. Test, 1, 2, 1, 2.
I'm just going to make something very, very quick to help you deliver our presentation.
At least it's not fake like last time. Cheers.
Hi.
Not bad. Brown boy?
No.
Oh. I was close.
Hmm?
I was close. So use it like a microphone?
Yes, this microphone is for the video recording.
Cool. Alright, so just a bit of an intro to the talk before we even speak about ourselves. Initially, this talk was presented at B-Sides New York.
Even says so on the slides.
Yeah, still. Sorry we didn't update it. So Irena came to me and said that there's an entrepreneur line in B-Sides New York, and that she's going to speak about how to do research at a startup. But Irena wanted a bit of a contradicting opinion because we always argue, almost always, and also we work in really different companies. So that's where we initially went to do the presentation. Now, because of DEF CON is a bit different. It's different audience, different people, same English, maybe a bit less English, less intensive. So we are going to do a bit of a freestyle to change some of those parts. And please, because I think we have enough time, it used to be like 25 minutes to talk. We did change it a bit. And please, if you have any question, go ahead. So just feel free to ask, we'll answer.
So I'd say something more than just feel free to ask. I'd like this to be more of a discussion than a presentation. We have a lot of stuff that we can say, but we're not higher authority in anything. So there are people here who did research in startups, who managed research in startups. So just for a quick overview, who here works for a startup? Well, I used to, so
Who used to work in a startup?
Yeah, works or worked in a startup. Okay.
Anyone here plans to open a startup? No.
Okay. Anyone here manages a team? So we have quite a few people here who do management of security teams, I assume. Security related teams. Anyone here who's doing non-security related work?
What do you do?
Okay.
All right.
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. So, yeah, let's start. Who are we? My name's Irena Damsky. I used to be the VP of research for a company named ThreatStop. It's a startup that's currently in its 10th year. It was founded in 2008. I used to run the security division for ThreatStop for almost 2.5 years. And it's a startup based in San Diego, and my security team was based out here in Israel. Right now, I left the company a couple of months ago, and right now I'm an independent researcher / consultant / unicorn, I don't know.
Right, so my name is Omri Moyal. I'm one of the co-founders at Minerva. How many people here they know about Minerva? Better than 2 years ago. And I'm also the head of research. My team leader is here as well, Gal. He's actually doing most of the work now. Before Minerva, I was the CTO of Clear Sky, and now I'm mostly traveling for startup reasons. All right, so you want to move on? Cool. So one of the most important things that we wanted to start a conversation with is about research in any cybersecurity company, not just a startup, but research is kind of like the force of the company. Without research, nothing much can be done. Some companies manage, but it's really important to understand, especially if you're in a position in research, to understand how important you are to the company. How much everything you do, even not in the short term, but something in the long term, really makes sense and really can make the difference.
So one of the more interesting aspects of being a security researcher or a security team in a security startup is the fact that the company doesn't have a right to exist without you being there. And all the different departments actually rely on you. So marketing, it's obvious. Hey, we just found a vulnerability. Hey, we just found an APT. Hey, let's send those researchers to stand on stage and make funny faces. It works. Then you have engineering. Engineering relies on you to find all of the different new tools and concepts that you need to sell your product. You have HR, but that's always true. Sales is also they use us mostly for pre-sale. And as Omri said, he's a frequent traveler, mainly because he goes and pitches to customers. He's the technical person who can do that. You can also use an engineer who's a developer, but a lot of times the security people are the ones who are actually put on premise and are sent to sales speeches, mainly due to the fact that we're also entertainers. We were hired to stand on stage. We were hired to write blogs and to promote our companies. So we're also used to sell our product. So everyone relies on us. The next thing is, how do we get this security team to focus? How do we get it to be fueled and to want to drive? So my first thing is about human trafficking, and I chose that term specifically because I just think it's somewhat entertaining, maybe, human trafficking, you know. We have a very, very big problem. So, as I said, everyone relies on us, but usually we have some of the lowest budgets in the company. So, the number one priority of every startup is sales. Without sales, the startup does not exist. So, sales gets most of the budget. Then you have marketing to get, again, a lot of the budget for creating sales. Then engineering, support, everything is above you. So Omri will not agree with me in a second. I'm just heads up. But in my case, in a startup that was around for a while, security was really important. It was one of the backbones, but we didn't have the budget to hire as many or as good of researchers that we would like. So it's always a problem when you have to say, okay, you're the most important person or the most important organization in the company, but no money for you, no soup for you. So that's something that you have to remember, and it's a problem for us. So the way that we handled it was actually to hire a lot of lower level people, so not having like a lot of senior researchers, but we had several junior researchers or junior analysts, and then in combined effort, 4 juniors can do what 1 senior can do. And it also takes the same time usually. So putting circumstances aside, of course, any startup, I think any department in a startup got a budget concerns, and of course, even a big company has those concerns. So one of the things that we've started to build is how do you actually manage to complete the task the best way you can with the amount of resources you have. So for example, especially I can vouch for Minerva, we get tasks from all over. We get from the product, we get from the development team, we get from the CEO, we get from our partners, we get from marketing.
But in Minerva, we're like 3 researchers, so we can't honestly do them all. But we developed some ways to actually make the task easier. So for example, one of the things we really like to work on is that combine as much sections of the task that we can. So for example, we get some task from the development team that, let's say, build some research tool. And on the other side, we might get from the sales team a task that can you help us present some section of the product better. So what we'll do, even if those tasks are not 100% the same, we are going to try and maybe get 60-70% out of each and combine them together. And that way, you can actually do things faster and also get more people satisfied. Another example is that we kind of understood that there's no way you can complete a task in 100% in enough time to actually make it valuable for the startup, for the product. So one of the things we started to build as well is the ability to make the kickoff of the task as easy as possible. And how do you do that? For research, one of the first things to do is your environment, for example, your tools, your machines, and the other thing is, sorry, got a blackout. So, and the other thing is that once you start it, you need to make sure that you don't overdo the task. When do you actually stop? So, you want to give us an example? Yeah. And for research, it's really easy to do. Why? There's never really... Sorry?
It's interesting. It's like we're getting paid to do our hobbies, right? So you want to...
Yeah, I agree.
Because there always is. There always is. You can do more and more and more, always.
So basically, if you look at it and you take and you divide the time it takes to do any task, the most intensive part is the start and the end. So the start, what really helps us is, and Gal can probably add a sentence or two, is even, for example, you make tests by priority. So even for some reason, let's say I do priority 1, of course you have to do priority 1, but then priority 2 is really different task, and I don't have someone else to go and do it. So we might look at priority 3 or 4, sometimes even 5, and see how much they relate, so maybe we can just do it at once. So the start of the task will be much easier. Maybe it's the same tools, the same environment, maybe the timeline. Of course, you have to finish what you vouch for and you promise you're going to finish. And also, one of the hardest things for a startup for us, for example, is the time difference. So, for example, most of our tasks, especially the sales tasks, come from the US team, sometimes Europe. And what we try to do a lot of time is to make the time difference work for our advantages. So, for example, if you know that we have to complete a task by Monday, we are going to focus it on Sunday. On Monday morning. We're not going to waste our time on Sunday, and on Sunday we're actually going to work on the things that relate to the Israeli team. We kind of combine it as well. Yeah.
So another thing that seemed to help a lot in my team, we had a lot of manual work, especially when I joined the company. I saw that most of the processes were manual, and that happens a lot of times, especially in a startup, when you have new things that you need to do, right? There are so many different tasks and so many ideas and things. So the way I always handled it was, okay, let's do it once and just get it over with. Let's do it the second time and understand what we did. Third time, we're going to automate it and never look back. And as long as you can automate basically everything, then you're saving yourself a lot of time. And it goes back, you're saving resources both on the human side and on the time. So two most expensive resources that you've got. Another thing that for me is a very big issue, it relates to what Omri said about time zones, is, as I said, my company was based in San Diego, which is 10 hours away from here on the time zone. So basically they wake up 8 a.m. San Diego time is 6 p.m. Israel time. That sucks. When your co-workers come to work when you want to go home, you don't want to talk to them. And that's the biggest problem that a team can have. You need to be part of the company. You need to be part of everything that goes on. And it's really, really hard to do when you're so far away. So it was really important for us that we find ways to communicate with the other people in the company so that there won't be any water cooler decisions made without us. And the way that we did that was to actually, my team was the team that initiated having most informal communication methods in the company. So when we joined, it was people used Skype to talk to each other. We got rid of that. We introduced Slack, and we left Skype for uncomfortable talks to our relatives in other countries, which that's the usage that Skype should have. And suddenly the fact that people are talking on the channel random and posting memes and stuff like that and having fun, it was part of what got the team being a team. So I'm a strong believer in remote work. I don't think that you have to sit in the office all day long and work together, but I do think that you have to have good communication with your team. So in startups, especially in early stage startups, you'll see a lot of times that people work remotely because there's no office. And you don't want to spend money on renting an office or renting some co-working space and stuff like that, because you can spend that money on your servers, or you can spend it on sales, because that's the #1 thing in the startup, right? So as long as you can meet and work together at least once or twice a week, that will also get your team to be more involved and relate to each other more. So when we just started, I hired my 2 first employees in Israel in January. We got our office in August. So for almost 7 months, we used to meet once a week in a random coffee shop somewhere along the track of the train. So there were 3 of us. I was from Herzliya. I had an employee from Telmon, so it's like near Netanya, and I had an employee in Haifa. So we'd meet along the tracks, and we'll have our daily meetup, weekly meeting, and we'll sit at the Landwehr coffee shop somewhere in Beit Yoshua or in Binyamina, and we'll work from there because, hey, it's startups, right? We don't have to have an office, but we have to work together. So that was another thing that helped the team be a team. It's not necessarily a research thing, but it's something that I think it's really, really important for people. So
getting a bit, let's move to be a bit more practical. When you open a startup as a founder, you do research alone at some point. And even before a startup, one of the most thing I had a challenge with is frustration. Because as a researcher, there's not always a success. Sometimes even more than not always. And once your team is getting bigger, you also need to make sure that your frustration first doesn't go to your team. And then you need to always keep your team motivated. They then don't get frustrated. You can get a test, for example, research is one of the challenging aspects because you go into a topic and you don't know what the results are going to be. Usually, if you know what the results are going to be, you don't need the research. So the question is, how do you keep yourself and your team always motivated, even though they failed? I mean, so the first thing I always try to communicate, even to myself, is that you didn't fail. It's okay to not, if you put it the task right, if you build the task as you should, if you put it the right flag and right milestone on and according to the time you had, and even though you didn't find what you were looking for, it's okay that you didn't do it as long as you did the task right. And sorry?
If you learn something.
Always, always. So this is exactly going to the second part, is that even though you failed, you need to take everything, all the materials that you collected and all the conclusions you've made, and make sure you communicate with the rest of your team, because you don't want anyone else to do the same task. Another thing is that, and we try to do it a lot, is to do kind of a freestyle test. Even though we don't have much time, one of the things I found that was really valuable for the company is to give my researchers an open time that says, hey, you know what the company does, you know, most than everybody else. Try and find things that will be valuable for the company, but also fun for yourself. And if a researcher goes to a task, and first he's independent, he chose that task. And second, usually people choose things that they understand more about it, or they're really eager to learn that subject. So one of the things we discover is that you find really, really good results. So for example, one of my researchers, Asaf, just found something really cool about Java, for example, that he completely chose on his own. So, and that really goes into the product, for example. Gal gave some good, really nice B-side talk, and you want to speak about it a bit? Cheers. All right, so another thing that I think might be the most important thing, and when you work as a team in research, is to have, you know, sometimes it's called round robin, or basically having an open table, there's no ranks. You pick a topic that usually is really important, usually it's stuff that you don't have a solution to, and you bring everything you have, everything, all the technical assets that you have on the table, and start brainstorming. Yeah. So, and a really important thing about why I call it round robin is that it doesn't matter who you are in the company. You can be a founder, you can be head of research, you can be the team leader, you can be junior researchers. Sometimes even the junior researchers bring the most craziest ideas because maybe they haven't got that block that, oh, I didn't succeed the last time. And when you look at it with a different angle and open-minded, usually you find, oh, we can actually do that. And this is something really important to do because you must keep innovative. You must keep and find more and more solutions, more and more new techniques. Maybe for some abilities are better and some are not, so you kind of keep a really good arsenal of tools.
So one other thing that helps a lot of people is giving them their own voice. And again, a lot of researchers are very egocentric, egomaniacs, whatever you want to call us. We're all like that. We like the attention. We like to be on stage. And we asked earlier if anyone here contributes to open source. Contributing to open source is actually one of those things that gets attention to you. It helps the community. It helps everyone. And everyone knows who you are, right? Or at least your handle, yeah. And that is also something that a lot of times startups and other companies can do. And it helps the team, it helps you both get your product on the way and get the team members more excited about working for you. Hey, I just did something for my company. No one would have heard about it because it would have gone into the product and that's it. But I just published it on GitHub and I wrote a blog about it. That's cool. I can do more of that, right? So it also helps, by the way, with the issue of budgeting, which we didn't actually touch. We skipped that. But a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have the money. We don't have the money for tools. We don't have the money for feeds. We don't have the money for licenses. There's open source. Open source is there. A lot of the tools that are open sourced are actually better than some of the paid tools. And if you help contributing to them and you help developing them, you can get a lot of shit done, which is basically the motto for every startup: get shit done.
Just before we move over, anyone here lately or something really memorable had really big frustration from a research he's done, he or she? You don't want to speak about it? Can you tell how did you manage to overcome it? Just move on. That's a good thing. And all right, anyone else? Yeah. So you gave up? Oh, you find a way. Oh, awesome.
So I have a small question. How did you do your work? What did you do? So when you tried to do this, the steps along the way. What did you do? So okay, I have a problem. I'm starting to research it. What am I doing? Okay, did you ask for help? Anyone? So a lot of things, and this is something that I've learned. First of all, we have a great DC group on Facebook. If you ask, hey, I'm trying to detect Bitcoin miners, and I have no idea what to do. I've done this. There are at least 5 people here in the first row who will try to answer, I assume. If not more, but people will try to help. Another thing is...
And don't be... Yeah.
And just to add to that, it's not only in the group. One of the reasons that we're meeting here is precisely that.
Yeah. And I was going to say, don't be afraid if someone tries to troll you or anything like that, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm either going to kick them or give them a really bad talk. That's why she's banned.
So wait, one of the main things that I do when I highly believe in it, and I have a few people here in the room who can attest to that, but I like asking for help because I know that a lot of people, first of all, they're smarter than me, and second of all, they've done it before. So it's like writing code. You don't really write code, you just piece pieces of it together, like Lego style, like guys talk from B-sides. And you just go on Stack Overflow, you find the solution, you copy paste, then you add some connections and that's it. But we have a lot of channels and a lot of places for you to communicate and ask and to know, to meet people who want to help you. We're here because we want to help you. And we actually, Omri and I, we run a Slack channel for malware research. And that Slack channel, it has a lot of really world-renowned researchers on it. So it has Silas Cutler, who's the head, he's the owner of Malshare. He's the guy who wrote Malshare. Allison Nixon, she appeared in an article about botnet and DDoS tracking over New Year's on Washington Times or something like that. The Washington famous newspaper. Lenny Zeltzer, he has 50,000 followers on Twitter. Hashiradze, what's her name? Yeah, that. I can't pronounce that. But Yeah, I think that when she joined Slack, Mark told me, "Oh my God, I love watching her videos. It's like zen for me watching her do unpacking for malware." So, yeah. So, and every time you need something, you can ask on that Slack channel, "Oh, how do I hook a function? How do I do reverse engineering? Is anyone here from GoDaddy? I have this domain, I want a sinkhole. Can you help me?" And even if there's no one there, someone knows someone and they'll help you. Yes. Yes, please. Come talk to us afterwards. We'll give you a link.
To the hat. Put it on the pizza.
And I just wanted to say one more thing about motivating your team. It's very, very simple, and Ezra is really good at it. But offer free food. Like, really, engineers do anything you'll ask them for food.
Or pizza and whiskey.
Yeah.
Or coffee. Sometimes it's coffee. Like, it's the best way to motivate people. Just inject caffeine into their veins. Boom, they work.
So the managers here are not gonna like what I'm gonna say now, and the ones who are juniors or just work as researchers, maybe quote me. You can take a recording. One of the things that I found the most. So for another topic, one of the things I found is most indulging and improving my team's work is to actually give them some free time to study extra topics. Take something that they like, learn more about it. There's so many, even sometimes send to courses if needed. For example, there's so many open source education materials. I love open security training, even though sometimes it's not updated. There's books all over. Get books for your team. Learn more from books. Get more courses. At the start, we wanted to give 4 hours a week just for learning whatever. At the start, we couldn't give it all, but we give periods of time to learn and give more stuff and get more education. And that's super important because you don't know, as a researcher, especially managing research, where is the next idea is going to come from. And you need to keep indulging, you need to keep moving it forward.
And one more thing about it is that don't forget, especially in startups, especially in earlier stages of startups, but security people are usually treated as like Swiss Army knives. They can do anything. So yeah, let's write some code, let's solve this, let's do marketing, let's make lunch for everyone, whatever.
Let's do a driver production.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's very, very important to try and focus the team and try and remind the other departments that, hey guys, we also have our own agenda and we also have to do our own thing. If we won't do our research, the rest of you will not get your shit done. So let us do our shit.
So luckily, when we speak about the founders, we have the CEO Eddie, we have Eric as the CTO R&D, and Evie as a researcher. And right from the early start, we created a rule that any code that research does doesn't go to production. It works, but it doesn't make it. it will do its job, but it's going to crash every system that ever is stepped on. Because, yeah. And I think it's a common thing for a lot of startups, because researchers are usually developers. I mean, I don't count myself as a developer, but Gary is a good developer. And he already wrote some POC because he wanted to show it works, he wanted to do it faster. And then it's so easy for the development team to say, okay, let's take it and then maybe do a code review. But in the end, there is a reason there's a development team and product team, because they design it well, they take all the considerations. As a researcher, you don't have to take those considerations. You don't give a fuck. You just, I want it to work, I want it to work fast, I want to make the example interesting, and that's it, I'm moving on. So we have the rule of, first there was a rule, none of Omri codes goes to production, and now it's full research, but it's something that really has research and not fix bugs or write the code in a better way.
Yeah, so for us, it's also, we wrote a lot of internal tools that suddenly became like part of production, because suddenly my scripts are like making sure that everything works. Like, what? Like, I'm not DevOps. We actually made sure that at least once a cycle, like once a quarter or something, engineering takes those pieces of code and rewrites those so that we will not crash production because we don't wanna. If we do, it's what we get paid usually, but not on our own systems. We want to crash production for someone else, competitors, ideally. So, yeah. Anyone?
Any questions?
Yeah. People, it's not for you, it's for the recording.
Thank you. So I'll repeat what I said. I think that
I have the mic. Sorry, I have the mic. So I have a slide for it. It's in a different presentation. Basically, we did at FretStop, the main thing that my team was in charge of was data. We were supposed to collect a lot of feeds and get a lot of data, then we can process it and can ship it out to customers. And what we did is a lot of people sell you data, and a lot of people, oh yeah, I'll give you it. First of all, we used a lot of personal connections. And again, it goes back to those Slack channels, those Facebook groups, those IRC mailing lists, and meetups, whatever. Use whatever you can to get whatever you need to do. So first of all, a lot of companies give their data to other researchers because they want to, because they know that eventually, when you'll have the money to pay for it, you will, because by then you'll be hooked. So, first of all, don't be afraid to ask. I'm doing a lot of research on passive DNS right now, and passive DNS is a freaking expensive resource. It's a feed that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I have all of those feeds right now for free from all the different vendors because they know I'm not making money out of it. I'm just doing research. When and if I'll have a startup and I will productize it, I'll pay them. So that's one thing. Another thing that we used to do, and it's something that a lot of startups do, and you should look around if you need that kind of help. I used to host, and FretStop still hosts, a lot of servers and a lot of mirrors for a lot of researchers. So say if you've ever heard of the botnet pun mockup, so the researcher who does the main research on it, he has a feed that throws out daily domains and IPs for malicious infrastructure for that botnet. And that's hosted on FretStop infrastructure. He's not paying for the hosting, and FretStop gets the data and the research.
So, yeah, if you want a little bit more formally, that's what we do. There's a magic word for partnership. We are not a big startup. We are maybe average now. But we have dedicated research team and development team that focus on certain areas that even, let's say, a company like Checkpoint I just mentioned because we're here, or McAfee, or, Firelight, whatever, they usually don't have a really dedicated niche players, niche researchers. So we can partnership with them and say, hey, we are expert in that field. You have a lot of data. let's work together. We'll share the results with you. There's also universities have, not sure exactly which data you mean, but a lot of universities has a lot of channels to enterprises and a lot of data that people just chunk into them because, I don't know, I get offered all the time to analyze terabyte of something. We usually don't do it. Yeah, well, but it's just an example. Now, one of the things that really combine your two questions and something I always try to push, being shy, I'm not saying you are, but being shy is a typical character for researcher, even for management, and it's something even for startup, but it's not a good character to have as a researcher. Why? Never be shy to ask questions, even if you think it's the most stupid question are. Never be shy to look for partnership, and never be shy to maybe fail or, you know, to present things that might be mistaken. I know, for me, I get shy a lot, and I used to fight it. I used to fight it all the time. And our VP product, Lenny Zeltzer, if anyone here ever met him, I mean, he's a really famous character. But when you meet him and you speak to him, you understand that he used to be really shy. But now he pushes it all the time to overcome and get the good results out of it. So even if you are, just, you know, fight it. I know it's not easy, but it's something you should do.
And one more thing about being shy. Don't be afraid to ask nor offer help. And that's something I'm going to repeat over and over and over again. We work better as a team. We are a team, and and we should always remember that, because guys, we're here not because we're getting paid. No one is paying us to be here right now and talk about research. Yeah, we're doing this because it's our fun.
I'm paying you. Sorry.
Got it with the Guardian?
Yeah. So yeah, don't forget a lot of stuff that we do it because it's our hobby, and someone decided to pay for it. God knows why.
I like football, I don't know.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Tutu? Nope. I'm already up here.
You spoke about kind of
but the thing is, it's hard to find expert malware researchers now. There's a lot of companies. You need to pay a lot of money, and if you're not really stressed to find someone who can, because even the most experienced person, every malware kind of anti-malware company is different. You have different approaches, you have different tools. So even if you take the most experienced person, it might take him some months to actually move and get a lot of value to your company. So sometimes, and it really depends on your budget, what you do, I really like educating. I find people with really good background. Doesn't have to be in malware research. For example, let's take Windows malware, okay? What are the basic foundstone you need to have as a really good malware research? By the way, today with all the tools, the triage and the sandboxing, and you know, IDA is extremely better than what it used to be, and all of the stuff. To get a lot of value from just malware research, you don't have to be that big of an expert. But what are the good backgrounds? First, operation systems. If you don't know operation systems, go back and learn. If you don't know assembly, at least get a good understanding of what it is. Computer architecture, you need to know how to write code. I mean, you don't have to be a developer for 50 years or 12 years, but if you don't understand code, you don't understand malware. You might be good at getting signature, getting some IP, analyze that, but you won't understand the bits and bytes of what's going on in your background. Because think about it, what's reverse engineering? Malware is reverse engineering. You build back what you see, what used to be. So if you don't know how to build code, you won't be able to predict or at least guess what was in there. Encryption helps, network helps. There's a lot of things that you want to add something. You probably. Yeah. But all of the things that I just mentioned, a lot of computer science students, InfoSec, electricity, how do you call it? Electric studies. Accountants as well, because look at it.
Mathematicians, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like those.
It's actually, it's way beyond that. You can hire a really good guy who has a degree in geography or history. And he'll be like amazing in finding vulnerabilities.
So,
And it's mainly the hunger. You don't always have to hire highly experienced people, but people who really want to and show some ability or some talent, you can teach them anything.
and for a lot of researchers, it's mostly not about the money. I mean, most of us need to pay rent or buy a car or something. I mean, sorry, that's the world we live in. Maybe there's some male researchers that move to India on the beach and they don't care. But it's not the most important thing for most. So keep it interesting. Give them responsibilities. Give them a good environment. So that usually works a lot, I hope.
And one more thing that's also kind of big, especially in the beginning, a lot of times the way to solve hiring issues is not to hire. It's to outsource stuff. There are a lot of companies and a lot of freelancers who do research, who can do a very highly trained people, who can do a research that you need to be done, and your team might take a lot of time to do that because you've hired interns or you've hired juniors, and you can hire like an external researcher who can do it in 2 days. It might cost you a little bit more, but you'll get shit done. As I said, number one priority, get shit done.
Right, we have to cut short. I'm not sure.
Sure, that's
way
not.
longer than expected.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Omri. If you have any questions for either me or Irena,